Now, the past belongs to the history books. The journey of another 2 years has begun for President Bola Tinubu. But what are the security and defense lessons from the last 2 years? Tonight, we search for answers on what security cards the president may play next. Babajide Ogunsowo, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's data analyst, is right here to share the facts, the analysis, and of course, insights about the national security and defense. Thank you, Babajide, for joining us again today on the news at 10. Quite an interesting topic, but how much of President Bola Tinubu's promises on security and defense has been achieved when we look at the first 2 years of his administration?
It all depends on who you ask, Anne. But the summary is we have a hung jury. The jury is divided, so it's really difficult to assess him. However, after thinking about it, here's what I feel is a fair way to look at it. First will be to take a detailed look at the statements the president made, especially his press recordings. The second will then be to look at what are citizens saying about security. Then we should look at how does the world view security in Nigeria, and finally to then look at what are the security agencies saying and what is their review of their security performance. And if we take a look at that very first place to start from, what did President Tinubu say and what has he been saying since 2023? His first day, he made it clear that we shouldn't pity him. He asked for the job, and I like that statement. He wouldn't give excuses, so he's on record for that. Last year, 8 priority areas, strengthening national security. Again, he says still remains among his priority areas. Don't forget 2023, he said he wouldn't give excuses. Now what we have is information that over 13,500 terrorists have been eliminated. So from the president's perspective, yes, we see consistency right from 2023 to now. We have information now that over 13,500 terrorists have been eliminated. But there are 2 questions Nigerians are asking. The first is, what is the population of terrorists in Nigeria? Let's exactly know how many terrorists are we dealing with. The second is, are we eliminating terrorists faster than the terrorist leaders are recruiting? Because if going by the 13,500 terrorists eliminated in the last 2 years, that's an average of about 18 terrorists per day. So yes, we might be moving and eliminating terrorists at that 18 terrorists daily average. However, there's a problem if the terrorists are recruiting 25 or 20 per day, because it simply means they are recruiting faster than we're eliminating. So we really have to tell ourselves the truth. What is the population of terrorists in Nigeria? What numbers are we looking at? And second is, are we eliminating more than they are recruiting? Don't forget, Anne, we clearly know some of the recruiters of terrorists, and beyond talking about terrorist commanders who are recruiting, the major recruiters of terrorists are poverty, illiteracy, and joblessness. So we need to look at those indicators to see how many people are coming into terrorists because of that.
Okay, but when we look at the polls, what are the polls saying about President Bola Tinubu's job approval rating when we look at jobs?
So when we talk about job approval ratings in Nigeria, and sadly, we don't have consistent numbers on the president's job approval rating. Same thing with President Buhari, President Goodluck, President Yar'Adua. So we still don't have that culture of independent job approval ratings. What we see is the politicians coming out to give approval statements. However, approval ratings really do not exist. What we have close to approval ratings are some sectoral performances, especially if we look at it from the feedback from citizens. So one way to look at it is, especially since we're talking about security, is to ask ourselves, how are citizens assessing the security and defense agencies? Yes, we have that information. And if we take a look at what has happened in the since 2023, it allows us to understand the challenges and where the opportunities are. Again, from the citizens' perspective, there's some good news. It depends on which region you look at. 45% of citizens in northern Nigeria say security is improving. However, the numbers are even better in southern Nigeria, where 57% of respondents in southern Nigeria say security is improving. Where are the challenges? The main challenge right now still lies in the northeast. If you take a look at the feedback from citizens, as at May last year, 61% of families living in northeastern Nigeria said security was improving. Those numbers are down this year to 52%. The numbers are the same in the North Central. They've been consistent, 39%, 39%. However, where we see good news is really the Northwest, the Southwest, the South-South, especially the Southeast, where we've seen 2 consecutive years of improvement in the Southeast in terms of feedback from citizens. We've seen consistent improvements in the South-South, and again, we've seen consistent improvements in the Southwest. So summary is good news from Southern Nigeria, from citizens' perspective, still some challenges in Northern Nigeria.
About today, let me quickly ask this one, but make it as brief as possible. I mean, food is the most important for anyone right now. When you talk about food security, it's a vital part of national security. When you take a look at the outlook, what are you seeing in the next 2 years?
The good news about food security is we have some good news coming from the defense headquarters. Their approach to food security is changing. They're using more of a scientific-driven way. So one of the information coming out this week is that they've identified 7 states that have the highest employed citizens in the agricultural sector. And if you take a look at those states, they say that will form a critical step for them in how they plan security operations, especially in the short to medium term. So clearly, we'll look at that information. The information we have right in front of us now shows where we are as at the global view. Global view shows that 2024 was an impressive year in terms of the Global Terrorism Index, clearly saying that 2024 was Nigeria's best performance in bringing down terrorism. 99 deaths recorded. We've never seen that in recent times. The challenge, and what we mean by AR in 2025, is we are awaiting the results of 2025. Will 2025 be a better year than 2024? Again, look at where we were as of 2015, 641 deaths. That reduced in 2019, 507 deaths. That reduced in 2023, 145, and now less than 100 as at 2020. Less than 100 as at 2024. We are waiting for the numbers from the Global Terrorism Index for 2025. So that's the good news on the global perspective. But perhaps the final analysis, like you talked about, is national food security. And if you take a look at those 7 states that the defense headquarters say they have their eyes on, because these 7 states are where in each of these states have more than 1 million farmers. 6 out of these states are in northern Nigeria: Benue, Bauchi, Niger State, Kaduna, Kebbi, and Kano. The 6th state is Cross River. So the information is security agencies coming from, especially the defense headquarters, say that one of their approach will be to look at areas where you have high concentration of farmers and herders, and they'll be planning their operations based on which local governments will need a lot of support. Finally, the information again from the Chief of Defense Staff is, when we're talking about optimism in this second year, is that their optimism doesn't mean that they are blind to the reality of the situation. It means that they remain motivated to seek a solution to whatever problems arise. So again, in final analysis, I'm optimistic. And even though some Nigerians may not be optimistic, it is on record that President Tinubu has said he will not give any excuses and he should be held responsible for everything that goes right. And if anything goes wrong, he should be held responsible. So based on that, we'll wait to see what exactly happens.
Okay, so I guess it's fingers crossed. We hope for the best. Thank you very much.
It's a midterm report card on security.
Babajide Ogunso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television Data Analyst. Thanks a lot for your time on the news at 10.
Thank you.